Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. Have you ever wanted to take resources from Earth, travel to the moon, use those resources to build and upgrade your base and support astronauts, whilst at the same time mining the moon for precious materials to sell back on Earth? If you have, that is a massive coincidence because Lunar Rush allows you to do just that. Lunar Rush is a 1 to 4 player game that incorporates mechanics for bidding, worker placement, card drafting and resource management, where players get to do this simultaneously. The game also incorporates solo play against one or more AI, where you can even incorporate one of these into a 2-player game. Lunar Rush hits Kickstarter very soon and I'll put a link to that here. This is from Dead Alive Games, where the designer Stephen Skippy Brown is the brother of William from The Hungry Gamer, so we can already expect something pretty exciting. Note that this is a prototype of the game, so content and rules may change from what you see here. Let's take a look. The game is played over 7 rounds, consisting of several phases where players choose a route to send their ships to the moon loaded with resources from Earth. Resources are later stored on a moon base where players can build various types of buildings, either from a standard deck each player owns or from a unique pool of cards chosen at setup. Any astronauts on the moon can be used to gain new and special resources that can be used for some actions on the moon base or loaded back onto ships to be sold on Earth for a hefty profit, represented by victory points. At the end of the game, players will also gain victory points for any buildings they have acquired and resources they have left, with the winner being the player with the most victory points. So what makes this game so definitive? Firstly, there are a lot of mechanics rolled into one game. As mentioned, we have bidding, worker placement, resource management and card drafting all taking place at different stages within a round. One may think this may be a desperate attempt to check all boxes for our favourite mechanics. Nope. They all link seamlessly, requiring careful planning to carry out actions on your current turn as well as those later in the game. The first phase in every round helps dictate how your turn will play out. Do you want to get your astronauts to the moon to help out with moon-based actions such as resource gathering, or get Earth resources there quickly, allowing you to build new structures that your existing astronauts can use? So how quickly do you need these items? Do you want to max out on resources and astronauts sent to the moon to be used in later turns, or grab a few resources to be used on the same turn? This is where route selection comes into play through bidding phase using initiative cards, where players can then select a route on which to send items to the moon. There are 4 different routes available to send your ships to the moon. 2 fast, 2 medium and a slow route, where the availability of each route in the game is dependent on player count. The fast route docks at the moon in the turn the ship was placed, whereas the slow route takes 2 turns but can take many more items consisting of your astronauts and resources compared to the 2 mere items the fast route allows. Each player has a deck of 5 initiative cards where they secretly choose one where the player with the higher number gets to choose a route first, and there is an initiative board where all the cards are laid out once revealed. So why doesn't everyone just play the highest numbered initiative card each round? Well, 2 reasons. Firstly, you cannot play the same initiative card 2 turns in a row, meaning you have to have some forethought on what you want to do next round, with the possibility of not having a favoured route. Secondly, you lose victory points equal to the number on the initiative card. Play your higher cards every round and you are eating into your final score. Plus, as the game goes on, later rounds include a multiplier to be applied to the card number, meaning you could lose up to 25 points for playing an initiative 5 card. Wow. The choice of resources to take to the moon is also important. Habitat parts cost 2 items but are used for most, if not all, building requirements. I really like this part of the game, especially if you have a ton of resources approaching the moon on a slow route, meaning it's not really detrimental to take a fast route as all your items will arrive at the same time. Cha-ching! When on the moon, you get to build structures, gather new types of resources and carry out conversion actions. Each player's moon base has the same 6 building areas where you can place astronauts to gain resources, some specific to the moon, some limited Earth materials, as well as resources to keep your astronauts alive with life support. Each player can upgrade existing buildings to more advanced versions, giving more resources, as well as others that allow conversion of your resources to more profitable ones. Each player also has the same standard deck of building cards to be built, but depending on need and availability of your materials, each base will likely become very unique. Also, the game includes gold module buildings that are a limited supply of unique and powerful structures that have some very cool effects and actions, and these actually sit above your base as additional areas to place your workers. What I like here is that building and resource gathering can be done by all players at the same time, massively reducing downtime. Also, you can continuously build and or gain resources in any order. So, for example, you can place a worker to gain resources and use those to build a structure that produces a more advanced resource to be used on a gold module card. As there appear to be an unlimited combination of these actions based on availability of resources and workers, there can be a little analysis paralysis deciding on the best order of actions, but it's a very rewarding experience to chain link these actions into a smooth and profitable turn. Now, the more astronauts you have on the moon, the more actions on your building areas that you can take. However, they are costly, requiring life support to stay alive for the next turn. Nobody wants a dead astronaut floating around their base. Being careless and not planning ahead is extremely detrimental, as losing an astronaut results in a huge loss of victory points, and this worker placement phase is a really clever element of the game. Most of the building cards also have more than one spot for your workers, allowing you to carry out their actions multiple times in a round. The market phase is pretty intuitive. The moon produces 4 special types of resources that can be used to construct buildings on the moon, but also sold on Earth for victory points. Now, I've mentioned planning ahead is an important part of the game, but here is where it really shines. During the first phase of the game, you use initiative cards to place ships and choose routes to the moon. During this step, you also get to select a route back to Earth based on the resources that you hope to have gained that turn. Each resource is worth a specific number of victory points that decreases with each item sold. I relate this to the resource becoming more widely available on Earth, meaning its worth is reduced. What you want here is to be the first player to sell their wares in a turn, as other players will gain less victory points for carrying out the same action. Again, fast routes carry less items, but the ships do arrive at Earth on the turn that they were placed. Lunar Rush is a very elegant game with a variety of mechanics, just works really well and is a joy to play. The rounds are pretty quick, helped by the fact that simultaneous play does take place at times. For newer players, you can do this one player at a time to ensure they understand the actions, but I don't think it's really needed. It's quite a high scoring game where you gain victory points for selling goods and constructing buildings, but the game offers an optional module called Moon Wonders, where you can draft cards for free to gain multipliers to tasks that you've completed in a game. Personally, I won't play without this module, as it gives you an objective or two to aim for bonus victory points. The prototype includes different market boards where the number of victory points for each sold resource varies greatly between boards. Replay value is high, as the combination of available gold module cards will be different for each game, plus you have the option to include faction cards that provide abilities that affect your style of play. The AI for solo play is really good, as it blocks routes, steals gold modules, and can beat you to the punch for selling goods at the market. You can play a solo game with 1 or 2 AI, and it's always a pretty close race to victory. What's more, you can include an AI to spice things up in a 2 or 3 player game as well. Lunar Rush is a great collaboration of mechanics and theme in a fairly simple to learn Euro game that is highly strategic. There are a load of options available to each player with regards to how items are sent to the moon, how you utilise your precious astronauts, and whether to use mined resources on the moon or sell them at Earth. I like the aspect of potentially losing victory points from initiative cards or dead workers, meaning you can't simply run away with overloading your moon base with astronauts or being the first player that closely links with turn order in the market phase. Lunar Rush is not a heavy Euro game, but certainly not light, and plays exceptionally well considering the ease of learning the rules. Again, this game hits Kickstarter very soon and is definitely one to watch. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.